Welcome to Bullet Point. We are your hosts. I'm EP.
I'm JM.
Every week we're going to talk about competitive shooting and everything around it.
So if you're an aficionado, enthusiast, a beginner, or just plain curious, this is your show.
You can easily connect with us through PHLV Facebook page, Bullet Point Facebook page, or simply connect with us with Bullet Point Media Production at gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel so you get the latest episodes of Bullet Point. Are you ready?
Stand by.
Yes.
Good evening, JM.
Good evening. Good evening.
Bro, how was your shooting
Good,
last
good,
weekend?
good. How was your week?
Well,
Weekend, I would say.
Well, look at this.
Because we shot
Look at it.
Saturday.
This is so
right?
you're asking me.
We
Yeah,
shot Saturday together.
Together.
And
Yeah.
then I took a. You know what? It kind of felt good resting like
Yeah.
Sunday.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then we obviously have the we now switched officially to like daylight savings.
That's
things
true.
is-
But
we're still
Saturday was
adjusting
so windy.
It was windy. It was cold.
I don't.
You know, luckily this week is all warm.
That's
so
a good one.
Back
You know?
to like the grind of
Back to the real
weekend shooting.
Vegas weather.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I was shooting. I don't know if you still recall it. You know, I just can't remove it in my mind. I was shooting, and then the wind was so hard.
Yeah.
You know, and then the
saw
target
I saw that.
stood up, and then I hit the no shoot.
Yes, I saw that. It was swaying, you know.
That was so bad.
And
man.
then I think like Saturday for me, it was just I ran the LO.
Yeah,
You know, and I
that's
had
right.
a couple blunders and bloopers there too.
That
and
was-
the magazine fell because I was gripping it hard. I was gripping it hard like an open, you know, and the way I grip the open. And then I just saw the magazine fall down. I'm like, holy!
And that day too, I was thinking if I'd be using limited something
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you know, something different that day.
Yeah,
Oh my
something
God.
different.
Well,
Yeah.
that's how the game is,
Yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, today, JM, I want to talk about, you know, a shift that is quietly happening in the shooting world.
yes.
So it's not the rule change. We've been always talking about
Yeah,
rule change.
yeah, we have.
We talk about divisions,
Yeah.
classes.
Nothing on the gear. Or
Nothing,
equipment.
the gear thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I think this is something much bigger, the way I look at it, right? So it's the rise of what I call the content shooter.
Yes, yes, the content shooter.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, we always bring up how powerful social media
Exactly.
is, and a lot of our idols, the people we look up to, almost all of them have social media. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody else
Doesn't have one. Yeah.
these days, right? However, there's also, you know, we'll discuss about the other surge on the other side of you know the pro shooter, but also the ones that are just an enthusiast that are just beginning.
Yeah.
And people have followers. They got followers.
Exactly.
Right.
And there are just a lot of followers.
Right. So we look at this on, you know, if you think about it, for decades, the identity shooter was very simple.
Yeah.
You went to matches, you competed, you trained, you know, you went with your favorite trainer. So your reputation is built through performance on the range.
Exactly.
Purely.
That's how it was for the longest time. But
Yeah.
I think today that actually changed.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
now we have shooters who are building audiences,
Yeah.
not just through match results,
Yeah.
but through content creation. Well,
Right.
can you imagine that? That's an entirely different direction of the shooting world.
Yeah.
You know, almost just like what you were saying, almost everybody, or if not everybody, almost everybody has YouTube channels,
Yeah.
Instagram pages, training clips, you know, gear reviews, stage breakdowns, podcast conversations, just
Right.
like what
Just
we're
like
doing
this.
right
Yeah,
now.
just like this.
You know, and then suddenly a shooter who may never win a national championship can still influence hundreds of thousands of
Yep.
people, you know, in the firearm community.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you know, a lot of the questions kind of surrounds of is social media changing the sport of competitive
Yeah.
shooting, right?
Yep.
If you look at before, back in the 80s or 90s, it's just a VCR, a guy with a big
Huge camera.
following the shooters,
Yeah.
and interviewing them after the runs.
Yep.
Now it's almost instantaneous, and it's the it's right in your fingertips.
Even
right?
the editing part.
Right.
Before it takes you a long time to
Yeah,
edit.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
instantly. Can you
Yeah.
imagine me? I'm driving, I'm editing.
Yeah, you're notorious for that. You don't want to mention that and get you pulled over.
I know, right?
You know,
delete.
So, you know, it begs the question: is that evolution healthy for the sport?
Yeah.
You know, or does it risk shifting the focus away from the fundamentals that build the sport in the first place?
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
So, is it more of I want to do this and film my run and post it for the gram,
exactly.
right? And see how many
and
reactions.
we hear those people,
and we've seen and hear those people,
yeah.
right?
Firsthand, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Mike. Yeah. But that's good in video.
Yeah. Oh, I just did it for the gram. Exactly. You know. So. If you dial it back before the traditional competitive shooter profile, right? To understand this change, we have to understand what the sport looked like back then.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And for the history of practical shooting,
Yes.
The influence of the sport was defined in one thing. It's
definitely.
performance.
Yeah, it's all
right?
performance. I think you remember because your family were shooters as well, and you were looking at their performance.
Yes.
Not because how they look good in the video.
Right. So if you look at it, if you were fast, if you were accurate, consistent, you carried weight, your name carried weight. The shooters built their reputations, through nationals, world shoot
Results.
Top finishes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of those compounded into the traditional competitive shooter.
And of course, the hierarchy was clear. The best shooters were the ones standing on the podium. Not because they have the best video. So if you wanted recognition from manufacturers, it came through results. That's what we're talking about. And companies actually sponsored shooters then because those shooters were represented by the excellence in the craft of shooting. That's how we look at it, right? So the value equals credibility. So that's two different things.
It's not
guys.
a one-way street.
No, not really. So when a top competitor used a particular, let's say, pistol or optics, whatever gear that is, it actually meant something. Sometimes, guys, it's being equated. Oh, he's a good shooter because he's got a good equipment. Or a vice versa, whatever it is. But again, it's because of the result, people understood that this equipment had been proven under the highest level of pressure and performance. So we were talking about it in our previous episodes about the pressure of getting to the nationals, getting to the area competitions, right? So in other words, influence was earned through performance under a competition condition, So I think that was the currency of the sport,
right? No, I completely agree with that. When you say even before you get sponsored because you were a top shooter, obviously these days that kind of meant something else, right? The thing is that the internet, as it evolved, did something that never happened before, right? It created that niche of attention.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So before social media, you wanted to watch shooting competitions, you have to go through the Shooting Sports USA, and you got to go through a cable. Yeah. Or you
just want to be there.
You just want to be there. You know. So it's a lot more slower paced information getting out. Compared to these days, but platforms like YouTube and Instagram created a different, completely different environment.
Exactly.
Now a shooter can film their run and then post it on their phone and share it in the entire world. Before when nationals back in the 90s, even so on the early 2010-ish, where internet wasn't really
big yet, there yet.
They're still printing the results via like a printer,
a dot matrix printer,
a dot matrix printer, and then they'll tear it off on the because I've seen this happen. It was the awarding was the 2010 Nationals. The awarding was at the Orleans.
Okay,
so they printed the results and they would post it at the back of the the room.
Yes,
and everybody would
start looking at
stand
it, right?
up and they'll look at it. So Now it's instantaneous, you know?
Yeah, and this topic that we're talking about, guys, is the rise of those content shooters, and that content could reach thousands, hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of viewers, and suddenly the audiences for this shooting industry or the sport was no longer limited to the people standing on the range or even on the podium.
Right.
The audience became global. In fact, that's the truth. Sometimes if I watch YouTube, can you imagine I'm now watching people from different countries performing? And this is where the content shooter actually start to emerge.
These shooters, especially these days, begin to understand that the shooting world is not just about competing, right? It's storytelling.
Yes.
We've seen that. They document it from the start to finish. Showing people the sport.
Yes.
You see some content creators kind of explaining what competitive shooting is, explaining the equipment.
Exactly.
They have some portions of gear breakdowns or just one segment just fully focused on equipment. And then breaking down techniques.
True.
I know on top
We've
of my
seen
head
a lot of those.
Some of the what they call is the subscribing content.
Yes.
Right? You have to pay, and then they'll break down the stages. So sometimes you submit your video, and then they'll tell you.
They break it down.
Yeah, they break it down for you. And just overall sharing training journeys.
That's true.
These are the platform just kind of opened up in a bigger audience for everybody.
So it's now that the visibility is all about whatever they would want to show, and it's not just about competition now. So now we are seeing two distinct roles within the shooting world. So the competitive shooter, that person itself, right? And the other one now is a content creator. I think we know in our own community here, we have some of those that are really putting a lot of effort to put content out there, including you and me right now for this podcast. This doesn't exclude us because we give out information. A competitive shooter spends most of their time focused on practice, dry fire, live fire training, match strategy, performance optimization. The primary goal for this competitive shooter is very simple: to win matches. The credibility is based on a very measurable performance. That's why we love to look at our performance in practice score, the stage times, the hit factor, and even sometimes, our national ranking. But the content creator, they operate in a very different space,
Right. No, so when we say content creator, I'll say it loosely, right? Because everybody can be a content creator, right? They're focused, or they're and when we define what a content creator is, this because a content creator can also be a grandmaster in shooting, right?
Definitely.
But this is more of the opposite side of they haven't spent a whole lot of time in the competitive world. This is more of a storytelling platform. It's more of educational. It's an entertainment. It brings the the engagement with audiences.
Correct.
The videos the clips that they put out is more of a firearm review. We see that a lot, like tabletop reviews. Shooting drills, gear breakdowns. Competition footage and sometimes tactical concepts.
Exactly. Right? And these competitive shooters and these content creators, sometimes these individuals may not even compete regularly for these content creators, but the thing there is they're not shooting competitively, just like what you were saying. Sometimes, grandmasters are there, but for these people, sometimes they just they still influence a large portion of the shooting community, believe it or not, So the sports now exist in two different arenas. The physical arena of competition and that digital world that we're talking about, the content and the influence. And sometimes those two worlds intersect, but sometimes they actually don't intersect.
I think you nailed that in the head perfectly. Obviously, all of this kind of funnels into one word, and that word is marketing.
Oh yeah.
Right. So in a broader sense of marketing, the concept of an influencer is already well established, right?
Yeah.
We see a lot of gears that's being sponsored, all the brands that they use. So companies understand that people trust personalities more than traditional advertisements.
That's right.
Right. And companies love that they'll push out all their products to like influencers.
Exactly.
I've seen hundreds of that during SHOT Show.
Yeah.
They're just by going around. And some of them they have a crew. Yes. A camera crew, right? So the firearm industry is now experiencing the same phenomenon, as I was mentioning, and brands have realized that the shooter with a large audience can introduce products to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of potential customers instantly.
Exactly. And for example, a well-produced gear review video can influence purchasing decisions for more effectively than a printed advertising in a magazine. I don't know how much magazine you have about gun shooting. Sometimes I have that, but I rather watch it.
Yeah.
So if a shooter demonstrate a product in action, that's very different from just by reading it or
Right.
a very perfectly shot picture of a pistol. So shows this actually. This content creator, it actually works. It's just the way it is. So the advantages that this create is a very powerful connection with the viewer. For me, I look at those every day. I don't know if you guys. So if you're watching this is one of them.
Yeah, it is. Even myself, like if I'm like in my gun room and I'm reloading or just cleaning my gun, I'll turn the TV on, and it's just white noise in the background, but it's like gear reviews, and then suddenly I'll look up and spend a couple minutes. I'm like, all right,
that's how they get it.
That's how powerful it is.
Exactly.
Right?
So the brands now are now asking different questions when evaluating partnerships. So they're just not asking a question like, is the shooter fast? They're also asking now, how many people does the shooter reach? Followers. So how many are engaging on whatever video that they actually put out there? So can they communicate our product effectively? So that shift, guys, now changes how influence is distributed in the industry. So again, the rise of this content creator versus that competitive shooter. Right? So,
well, I mean, it begs the question, right? Do in a perception of a content creator, do followers matter more than the match wins?
Well, it's for me. When we were growing, we were looking at advertising, toothpaste, or what have you. McDonald's out there, So whatever we see, visibility is integrity. So whether you win matches or not, because the perception is always there. You'd want to have it.
Yes. So I've seen this a lot. I've seen this trend a lot, and especially with the newer shooters entering USPSA, right? Whenever they post, they tag the company, right? And when they tag the company, the reciprocity of the company reposting them is a lot more, and this is the human satisfaction side that the shooter would experience of reposting it. So basically, if I have a product and I tag that product, and then I post it on my story, and then the company that I tagged picked it up and reposted it. To me, as a shooter, it's a
you feel good about it.
I feel good about it because I'm like, everybody's going to see me, right?
Exactly right?
But also on the company, that's advertising.
Exactly.
And you're you're the another sell for them to advertise.
Exactly. That's actually good. So this is where the debate becomes interesting, because some shooters believe that the social media influence is beginning to outweigh competitive achievement. So that's a good example there. So imagine two shooters. One is a national level competitors with multiple major match, wins or victories. The other is a content creator with hundreds of thousands of followers, but limited competition experience. Now, which are you going to follow, right?
Yeah.
That's where the debate comes in.
From a pure shooting perspective, obviously the competitor clearly demonstrates greater technical skills.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
But from a marketing standpoint, right, and obviously, I hate to say it, but companies at the end of the day, they're a business. They're for profit.
Yeah.
The content creator may offer greater visibility.
Yes.
And visibility equals dollars
and dollars, of course. Yeah.
So, so brands sometimes have to decide the type of influence that aligns better with their goals and their culture, and this creates kind of tension in the community.
Yes.
One way or the other. Because I've seen folks that roll up with a whole squad of camera crew and all that, and I could see some other shooters kind of smirk whenever they're walking around, and some competitors feel that the performance should always be the primary metric of respect and recognition. Others believe that it's a growing sport, and through media exposure is equally viable.
Exactly.
Both perspectives have merit, believe it or not. And this is why the topic generates a lot of
discussions around it. Yeah. So what do you guys think, right? So a skilled competitor or a very what do you call this, influential content creators, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. So how brands are being measured value today. So the modern firearms industry is becoming more data driven. I remember when I was watching this movie about basketball, they're all very data driven before they actually draft somebody as a player.
Yes.
So this is also the same thing as in our industry right now. So companies now, they analyze metrics such as video views, audience reach, the engagement rate, all of these analytics. You can actually have it even in Facebook. Just us ordinary people who's posting in Facebook. You can even look at your insights on your analytics. The conversion, what you're posting converts to sales or exposure. And then a single video demonstrating a firearm or an optic can actually generate thousands of product increase. That's a lot of reach.
Aside from that, right? As the digital age progress fast, I'm excited to have a lot more presence on the AI side.
Oh, that's another thing.
Because our sport, and I've seen this in winter sports, in winter Olympics.
Okay.
They're using AI data and AI-driven metrics to analyze all of the competitors.
Wow!
So I'm excited to see what that does for us.
For us, and that definitely is going to be a measurable impact.
Oh, absolutely,
definitely,
because ours is a numbers game.
Yeah,
more so of a numbers game.
Exactly, and from a business standpoint, companies need to invest their marketing budgets where they would want to see results.
Yeah,
definitely. That's exactly what you were talking about marketing, and the digital content provides a way to track this results. The platforms now, they provide metrics for us.
Yeah. So it's there. It's there. Like I said, it's there. Just the evolution to that. And when we talk about how brands measure value today in today's age, for example, if a video review drives traffic to a company's website,
exactly what you were saying,
right? So or links, right? Increases product sales. They have the whole R&D on the backside. I'm sure the marketing department,
they'll catch it.
The content creator becomes extremely valuable from a marketing perspective.
Exactly.
Right. So the industry is growing. The industry is always revolving. Manufacturers are now balancing two types of ambassadors. You have your performance-based shooter and then the media-based shooter. The most effective partnerships often combine both.
Exactly, but sometimes which is that's a good strategy to combine both.
Yeah.
But how much is my budget to do that?
Right,
It's a different story.
Yes, yeah.
So the positive impact of content shooters, this is important to recognize that content shooters have contributed significantly to the growth of the sport. Now, that's what you were saying, technology, internet is actually technology, and now AI comes in. Definitely, that significant growth factor, I'm telling you, it's going to compound.
Yeah.
It may start at, a few years ago slowly, but now you could see the result. It actually gave us 2 divisions now on how to impact the market. So they help make shooters or shooting more accessible to newcomers. Can you imagine when I was shooting in California, there's this new shooter, doesn't know anything about guns, right? And I just told them, look at this website. The next thing you know, they have all new this gears already, without even, explaining how it works.
Right.
The access is there.
Yeah, the access is there. Some of the some of the positive impacts in both sides is now we have that information in our fingertips, right? Yeah. And it's immediately accessible to anybody.
Yeah.
You can literally download a whole lot of information even like a couple hours before you shoot.
Exactly, and information is power. That's the reason why. So, can you imagine? I learned dry fire just watching YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of the hence what they call when I'm working in my car and I made I was able to do what I needed to do. It's like, hey, where'd you see it? It's YouTube University.
Yes, that's right. So, all of this access now from the content shooters. Thank you, by the way, for the access of information.
Yeah.
I know they put a lot of effort to make this happen. They actually demonstrate safe handling practices before. You can only watch it where you go, when you go into a club. That's the only time that you know that. Now, before you even go into the club or into a club, you already know about these practices, because these content shooters, they showcase competitions that many people would never otherwise actually see. So in many ways, they serve as an ambassador of the shooting world, if I may use that for right now. If you don't agree with that, let's just say they could potentially be the ambassador for the shooting world because without these content creators, guys, many people will never discover practical shooting and how practical shooting evolved. The community is just a lot today. I think there was this one of the announcement of USPSA, the record-breaking members in 1 month was February.
Yeah.
Thousands of them.
So
right?
that goes to show the positive impact of the whole the whole thing. And another thing too, if I may add, when we talk about technology and bringing action shooting sports to the whole world is, they're like, a company in Phoenix, Arizona with under Leighton, right?
Yeah.
And he created this company, his media production. I forgot on the top of my head what the name of his company is, but they started filming live broadcast in World Shoot, in Handgun World Shoot. And so that's continuing process, right? And partnering with IPSC.
That's actually hard. I was thinking about that before.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you can watch shooting live just like you're watching NBA?
There's a lot of equipment that you got to bring,
because
and
the number of stages,
and
all of this
that.
stuff.
Yeah,
that's hard.
From one of the things to circle back on the positive impact of content shooters is even on the beginners, right? That they can now watch, stage runs and training sessions and equipment guides, and begin learning immediately. This exposure helps the community. More shooters, bring in more shooters, more interest, more participation. As we were saying, February was a blockbuster month for USPSA, and it is a powerful positive force.
Exactly. And then it's not always positive. There's going to be some downside too, right?
There's always you have the positives, and now you have your downsides.
And maybe social media can also distort some perception.
Definitely.
A platform tends to reward spectacular content, extreme speed, flashy equipment, high-end race guns. While these things are exciting to watch, in my perspective too, they can sometimes give new shooters the impression that they need to, get expensive equipment before they can even begin. So those are some of the downsides. But in reality, the fundamentals of shooting have always been the same.
Yes.
So we talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the fundamentals got to be there. Your grip, sight alignment, trigger control, movement, efficiency.
Yeah.
So those principles apply whether you are shooting a basic pistol or a highly customized open gun.
Yes.
Another challenge is that content sometimes prioritize entertainment over education.
Yes. Yeah.
We've seen that a lot. And I think some of your favorite content creators kind of stick to one theme, or multiple themes, right? And this is where the community must maintain that ecosystem of balance.
Balance,
right?
correct.
The sport should always emphasize skill development and responsible firearms.
I think that's the basic anyway, So during these times, I don't know. I remember my dad when he was shooting as well in the province. There were no videos.
Yeah.
And in fact, well, it's hard when I was starting. It's hard to understand what the competitive world looks like. You go to one stage, shoot in the stages. They can actually tell you how it works, but it's so different if you see how it works. So there's also what you call the hybrid shooter. This is what you call, and you would see this in the future.
There's a few that are like this already.
It's happening.
Oh, it's we can name a few in our hands that has been doing this for a while.
That's good. So the most influential shooters in the future, or those who have started it now, they can actually operate in both worlds. They can compete at a high level, but they can also communicate effectively. So I would want to say that that's us. I'm just kidding. They can explain the sport, teach the fundamentals. They share the experience. That's why we're here anyway. We try our best to picture in the imagination of our listeners, especially for the new ones, how competitive shooting world is, and then we share our experiences or get some guests to share the experiences as well. So these shooters become the bridges between the competitive community and the broader public who actually are interested, or even those people who are not interested, they now become educated.
Right. Right. That combination, is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Right. Because when the future's shooting sports will not only depend on how the whole ecosystem kind of exists together.
Yeah.
Right. So finding that balance, there's a few already that top shooters. However, they're more of a top shooter, and then they started doing the content.
Yeah,
a lot
we can
more.
name a few already, right? So we've seen them.
Yeah, so they're great. So folks, again, in closing, right? The just to circle this topic.
Yeah.
The rise of a content shooter reflects largely. Larger reality about modern society.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to think about that. Every day the sport is influenced by media.
Correct.
Fans want access.
And that's what we're talking about. They have access, even us, right?
Yeah. Like just nationals, they want immediate, results.
I was looking for what's the result? Come on.
So they want insights, they want stories.
Yeah.
Competitive shooting is now entering the same phase of evolution. As I was mentioning, we have all the digital technologies around it now. The challenge for the community is to embrace the benefits of media exposure.
Yes.
I think it's a good move while preserving the values that define the sport.
Exactly.
Right? So the core of the sport is still there, but you you have to mix it with the digital age.
Exactly. So speaking about the core, respect for safety, when you go out there, respect for discipline, respect for mastery. Because at the end of the day, JM, no matter how many views a video receives, the heart of the sport will always be the same. A shooter, a target, and the pursuit of precision.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go, guys.
Yes.
Hope you like our topic for today,
I hope
right?
so.
Social media, internet, content shooter. Once again, guys, this is Bullet Point. My name is EP.
I'm JM.
And we'll see you on the range.